Hey y'all, I'm here. I'm here. I got sidetracked. I had to do something. I didn't realize that, like, if I went in there, that you guys could come in. So I apologize for that. Can y'all hear me okay? What up, Montana? What up, Burt? What up, Harlem? What up, everybody in the chat? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank y'all for coming back. I know it's the 4th of July. I wasn't sure how many people would be here, but I wanted to read the lawsuit that Harlem sent over to me so we could kind of talk about that. I also wanted to let you guys know that we will have a special guest coming tomorrow. Viral Hip Hop News founder Sam Anthony will be with us tomorrow. He is a phenomenal actor. He is a phenomenal host on his channel. I think that's his cousin that they're with, and they have blown it out the water. So if you guys go over to Viral Hip Hop News on YouTube and follow him, that would be amazing. He will be right here with us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. So join us. Hello, Tori Love. Welcome back. Welcome back. Don't forget to hit the like on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Guys, it's lit over here. All good vibes is going up. It's up from here. So I cannot wait. We are working on other guests that have said yes. And so we just got to figure out a time for them to be here. We out here doing our thing. We outside. So let me see what else. I hear firecrackers outside my window. So the 4th of July ain't my favorite holiday. I like it because I'm off, but I don't like all the popping of the firecrackers. But to each his own. That's just me. So yeah, welcome in. I want to talk about this a little bit. But I want to kind of read this kind of long. The lawsuit is kind of long, but we're going to read it. Then I want to talk about it. I don't see Montana here. Is he here? Oh, yeah, he's here. Okay. Huh? I'm live. Okay. No, I don't know. Okay. As soon as I hit the live button. Okay. So I hope we can do this live with no more interruptions. I mean, I've been in here all this time and no one wanted to talk until I hit the live. Oh, there you are. So anyway, let's get started. It started on the lawsuit. Let's read about it. Let's talk about it. See what you guys' opinions are on this as well. I don't know what I'm thinking about this right now. So let me pull it up. Let me get back to page 1. And, I got to take that off so I can see it all. I hope y'all had a good day so far today. I don't think my grandson liked the loud ones or my granddaughter, but they like the colorful ones that are silent. Why is Montana in his feelings tonight? Like, what had happened? Oh, okay. I see. So you can think I was. All right, so let me see. All right, let's get started and read this lawsuit. So if you guys don't know, this lawsuit comes from Clayton Howard, who is suing Sean Combs, Cassandra Ventura, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Combs Enterprises, LLC, Beverly Hills Hotel, Corporation, and Doe Corporation. What is Doe Corporation? So this guy is saying that he's coming out saying that pretty much Cassie gave him an STD, let's just read it. Trigger warnings, y'all. Trigger warnings. This document contains highly graphic information of an actual nature, including actual assault. So if that is you and it bothers you, please just this is not for you tonight. I don't want to offend anyone. So you guys make your judgment here. We know already this channel is not for kids. All right, so let's get started. Plaintiff Clayton Howard, aka Dave, aka Mr. Howard, hereby alleges as and for his complaint against the defendant Sean Combs, Mr. Combs, Cassandra Ventura, Miss Ventura, Bad Boys Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Combs Enterprise LLC, Doe Corporation, all those things, right? Preliminary statement. Plaintiff Clayton Howard brings this civil action against defendant Sean Combs and Cassandra Ventura arising from an 8-year period of systematic sexual exploitation, trafficking, and abuse that occurred between approximately 2009 and 2019. This case expressed the darker, this might be too light for me. That's a little bit better. This case exposes the darker truth behind the widely publicized narrative surrounding defendant Ventura's recent civil settlement and the ongoing criminal prosecution of defendant Combs. Defendant Sean Combs is a prominent rapper and record executive known by his stage name Puff Daddy, PDiddy, or Diddy, who rose to fame in the early 1990s with his record label Bad Boy Records and is regularly referred to as a hip-hop mogul. Defendant Cassandra Ventura, known professionally as Cassie, is a singer, actress, and a model who gained prominence in the early 2000s with her single Me and You and appeared in films including The Perfect Match and Step It Up to The Streets. Defendants maintain a highly publicized romantic relationship from 2007 to 2018, during which both were toxic individuals addicted to opioids and methamphetamines who had no regard for others or the law. Their relationship was characterized by sexually explicit, depraved activity categorized as swinging, with defendant Combs harboring a specific fetish for voyeurism. The relationship was abusive, with defendant Combs frequently physically assaulting defendant Ventura in response to domestic incidents neither could emotionally control. The misleading public narrative. In late 2023, defendant Ventura filed a civil action against defendant Combs pursuant to the Gender Motivated Violence Act, alleging that Combs manipulated, abused, and controlled her for over a decade through violent behavior and disturbing demand. She claimed to have spent over a decade trapped in this cycle of abuse, violence, and ex trafficking, including allegations that Combs forced her to engage in ex acts with male ex workers while he pleasured himself and filmed the encounters. The parties settled this action within 24 hours for $20 million. Subsequently, the Office of the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York arrested and indicted defendant Combs for ex trafficking and violation of the Mann Act, with the prosecution's foundation based largely on defendant Ventura's allegations. Defendant Combs currently faces trial on RICO charges. Contrary to the narrative presented in defendant Ventura's civil complaint and the subsequent criminal prosecution, the truth reveals a far more complex and disturbing reality. Defendant Ventura was not merely a victim forced into sexual encounters with male escorts, but rather an active and engaged participant who willingly manipulated and exploited others, including plaintiff, to satisfy the sexually depraved desires of defendant Combs and herself. For more than 8 years, defendants operated a scheme whereby they systematically exploited plaintiff through manipulation, coercion, controlled substances, and threats of violence to engage in non-consensual sexual activities for their gratification and commercial purposes. Defendant Ventura accomplished this exploitation by concealing her identity and fabricating the narrative that she and defendant Combs were married, using this deception to entice men into drug use and sexual encounters. Defendants drugged plaintiff with controlled substances, including MDMA, in doses 3 times stronger than what defendant Ventura herself consumed to lower his inhibitions and faculties sexually exploitation. Defendant Ventura used these substances strategically, like a spider catching its prey in its web, to manipulate plaintiff into unprotected sexual contact designed to please defendant Combs and prove her devotion to his appetites. Defendant Ventura would command plaintiff to pleasure himself for hours while she pleasured herself to climax, visibly satisfying herself at the sight of plaintiff's anatomy. These extended self-pleasuring sessions often left plaintiff's private parts bruised and swollen, injuries about which he would complain to defendant Ventura, seeking consideration. However, defendant Ventura showed no mercy, simply demanding compliance while pleasuring herself in a manner she hoped would satisfy defendant Combs, who derived satisfaction from watching her gratification through his voyeuristic desires. During the encounters, defendant Combs watched silently in the shadows, directing the activities as if he were a film director orchestrating his vision. Once defendant Ventura was ready to begin, defendant Combs regulated her responses and controlled the rate of sexual activity, exercising complete dominance over both plaintiff and defendant Ventura in what the couple considered a special shared experience. While defendant Combs appeared to serve as a protector rather than an oppressor, supporting defendant Ventura's desires and catering to her with wine and fruit during encounters. His presence was deliberately intimidating as part of his role in protecting his partner from the men they exploited. Threats of violence were implied when defendant Combs wished to assert control, and during at least one encounter, he threatened to pow whip plaintiff, directing defendant Ventura to the master suite to retrieve his pow. At no time did defendant Ventura display fear when engaged in or about to engage in sexual encounters. All abuse witnessed by plaintiff occurred due to domestic complications between the defendants, including jealousy, ego, and arrogance, aided by extensive drug use and sleep deprived, which contributed to violent outbursts from defendant Combs, who consumed far more drugs than defendant Ventura. Sexual assault and non-consensual recording. Over the years, plaintiff was sexually assaulted by defendant Ventura, who would manipulate and force herself upon plaintiff during her menstrual cycle against his will. Defendant filmed plaintiff in compromising encounters without his consent for years, creating recordings that the couple would watch together after the encounters ended and use for mutual self-pleasuring. When plaintiff confronted defendant Ventura, confronted defendant Ventura about the recording and vocalized his desire not to be recorded, she explained that she enjoyed their sexual relationship and provided her reasons for the recordings. Defendant Ventura then opened her MacBook to a previous recording and pleasured herself to climax in front of plaintiff while watching an encounter involving the two of them, demonstrating the extent of her manipulation and control. Commercial X trafficking. For more than 5 years, defendant trafficked plaintiff for purposes of commercial X, using him as entertainment to satisfy their sexual fetishes and personal ambitions. The couple rugged, manipulated, and traumatized plaintiff while themselves engaging in a toxic, domestically abusive relationship that often became violent. Defendant Ventura had a specific preference in selecting her companions and chose plaintiff for 8 years over many other available options, as subsequent criminal trial proceedings have revealed. The allegations demonstrate that defendant Ventura deceived, manipulated, and injured plaintiff, and therefore should be held accountable alongside defendant Combs, as the two were partners in these criminal enterprises. Obstruction of justice and witness manipulation. Plaintiff's ability to seek timely legal recourse was deliberately frustrated through a coordinated effort involving his former counsel, who communicated with federal prosecutors without plaintiff's presence. The plaintiff was advised to remain silent and was manipulated into inaction, with the attorney intentionally delaying action so to protect defendant Ventura's credibility. The plaintiff was specifically advised that should he file a complaint, he would lose credibility before the court and therefore should refrain from doing so if he wished to do what was right and tell the truth. His counsel deceived, ignored, and misled him regarding the creation of the initial complaint against defendant and when it would be filed. Despite serving as a compliant witness for the government and providing information that was later corroborated by investigators, thereby validating his credibility and the truthfulness of his statement, federal prosecutors ultimately withheld plaintiff's testimony despite its corroborative value and his valid allegations against both defendants. Denial of justice and present claims. For many years, plaintiff lived with this trauma in silence, forced to endure the psychological and physical consequences with no visible avenue of justice. While defendant Ventura's allegations have destroyed defendant Combs' career, she has escaped liability by using allegations of abuse to avoid criminal responsibility for her own action, thereby denying victims like plaintiff the justice to which they are entitled. With the opening of legislation and granted survivors a look-back window to seek justice against offender, plaintiff learned he had been given a second chance to obtain the justice he deserved. The plaintiff has sought justice for over a year, only to be denied through the manipulation of legal professionals who wish to affect the criminal trial of Sean Combs. Mr. Howard was used and manipulated. Now tired of the misconduct and incompetence, he has sought action himself and refuses to remain silent any longer in the face of the systematic exploitation, abuse, and attorney misconduct. This action seeks declaratory, injunctive, and monetary relief under federal ex-trafficking status, the New York State Human Rights Law, all that, the New York Service of Victims of Human Trafficking, the California Trafficking Victims Protection Act, all that. Okay. Moving on. Ex-trafficking for the severe psychological, physical, and dignity harms a plaintiff suffered during the prolonged period of exploitation and abuse, jurisdiction, and venue. The court has jurisdiction pursuant to that and 1343, as the section asserts violation of 18 U.S.C. 159, whatever that is, and therefore raises federal questions regarding the deprivation of plaintiffs' rights. The court has supplemental jurisdiction over the plaintiff's related claims arising under state and city law pursuant to 28 USC 1367, whatever that. Under this other thing, 28 USC, whatever, venue is proper in the court because the proper venue for a civil action shall be determined without regard to whether the action is local or transitory in nature. Additionally, all defendants are residents of the state in which the district is located. Parties. Plaintiff Clayton Howard is a resident of New York and New Jersey. Beginning in the fall of 2009, he accepted work as an independent mail companion in New York. Under alias Dave, he saw clients for almost 60 days before he met the defendant. Mr. Howard was recruited and manipulated by the defendants Sean Combs, Cassie Ventura, Bad Boy Records LLC, and Bad Boy Entertainment, and its related entities, among them Doe Corporation 1 through 10, beginning in 2009 and concluding 2019. At all relevant times herein, Mr. Howard met the definition of an employee while under the control of the defendants under relevant status. Dang, how long is this? Defendant Sean Combs, upon information and belief, resides within the state of California. At all relevant times herein, Mr. Combs met the defendant of an employer of the plaintiff under the relevant statutes. Defendant Cassandra Ventura, upon information and belief, resides within the state of California. At all relevant times herein, Ms. Ventura met the definition of employer of the plaintiff under relevant statutes. Defendant Bad Boy Entertainment is a music, media, and entertainment company founded by defendant Sean Combs, which includes the record label defendant Bad Boy Records LLC. At all relevant times, defendant was an employer of the plaintiff within the meaning of applicable statutes. Defendant Bad Boy Records LLC is a Delaware limited liability company with its principal place of business located in New York. At all relevant times, defendant was an employer of the plaintiff within the meaning of the application statutes. Defendant Epic Records is a New York-based record label owned by Sony Music Entertainment, a subsidiary of Sony Corporation of America. At all relevant times, defendant was an employer of plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Defendant Combs Enterprises LLC is a New York limited liability company. All at relevant times, defendant was an employer of the plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Defendant Beverly Hills Hotel is owned by the Dorchester Collection since 1996. At all relevant times, defendant facilitated X-trafficking when any employee aided other defendants in the commission of illegal activity. Oh my goodness. Defendant Doe Corporations 1 through 10 are corporations and entities affiliated and associated with the defendant corporation. At all relevant times, defendant Doe Corporations were employees of plaintiff within the meaning of all applicable statutes. Factual allegations. Number 1, Mr. Howard meets Combs and Ventura under fraudulent circumstances. Mr. Howard, Dave, met Miss Ventura, Jackie Starr, in late 2009. Ms. Ventura, who identified herself as Jackie Starr, invited Mr. Howard, Dave, to the London hotel located in New York City to serve as a male companion and provide her with time and company in the privacy of her hotel room for an agreed upon hourly rate. Ms. Ventura attempted to conceal her identity through the use of makeup, a large red wig, and dim lighting in the room, which created poor visual conditions. Ms. Ventura failed to inform Mr. Howard prior to the meeting that another party would be present. Immediately after greeting Mr. Howard, Ms. Ventura offered him alcohol and a marijuana cigarette, then instructed him to be seated in the living room. The two parties spoke up for approximately 30 minutes while becoming familiar and relaxed. After approximately 30 minutes, Ms. Ventura asked to see the personal identification of Mr. Howard for safety purposes so she would know who he really was. Having nothing to hide and wanting to make a woman he assumed alone comfortable, he provided Miss Ventura, Jackie Starr, with his New York driver's license revealing his true identity. Miss Ventura informed Mr. Howard of her intentions by standing and requesting that he expose his genitals. Under the influence of the substances provided, Mr. Howard agreed to Miss Ventura's request, and she claimed to be impressed. Miss Ventura then informed Mr. Howard that they were not alone and that her husband was upstairs, but assured him that the situation was acceptable because her husband had consented to her having a male companion visit to see where things might lead. Miss Ventura explained that she and her husband were participants in the lifestyle and that her husband preferred to watch her be pleasured by men with larger male reproductive organs. Ms. Ventura stated that she preferred men with darker complexions, complimenting Mr. Howard's complexion before excusing herself to retrieve her husband so that activities could begin. Ms. Ventura retrieved Mr. Combs, who she introduced as her husband, and presented to Mr. Howard under the alias Frank. Mr. Combs greeted Mr. Howard with indifference, then retrieved baby oil and Astroglide lubricant, both of which had been positioned on a platter on the center table. Mr. Combs then retreated to a darkened corner of the room where poor lighting made it difficult to observe his movements clearly. Mr. Howard was instructed not to address Mr. Combs, Frank, directly and to speak only to Miss Ventura, Jackie. Mr. Combs concealed his identity by wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyebrows and a cloth tied around his nose and mouth, which observed his facial features and made him unrecognizable. When Mr. Combs did speak, it was to inquire whether Miss Ventura was acceptable or if she needed anything. Mr. Combs also provided direction to both Mr. Howard and Miss Ventura, regulating the pace of their physical contact, as will be further explained in subsequent paragraphs. The first encounter and the structure of the activities. This first encounter served as plaintiff's initial education into what would be required of him by the defendant, with all subsequent encounters following an identical structure that forms the basis for the description of all encounters described hereafter within this complaint. During each encounter, Mr. Howard had an anatomy he was required to follow, orders, and was expected not to disobey. Financial compensation was used as a form of dominance once Mr. Howard was committed to any activity within the encounter. Mr. Howard was instructed by Ms. Ventura to remove all his clothing upon entry into the suite and to surrender his clothing and phone to Ms. Ventura. Ms. Howard's cell phone was turned off and surrendered with his clothing to Ms. Ventura, which prevented him from leaving by choice without compromising his safety. Some suites required keys to access the floors and had no access to stairwells without triggering alarms, making escape difficult. Mr. Howard was instructed by Ms. Ventura to apply baby oil on his nude body. When Mr. Howard applied the oil to his hand and began to distribute it evenly, Ms. Ventura would use her own bottle to saturate Mr. Howard's chest, abdomen, and arms with oil before stepping closer and attempting to apply it evenly herself. Ms. Ventura often sprayed Mr. Howard with oil during applications to make distribution over his skin easier. The defendant structured these encounters into four phases. 1, no touch. 2, soft foreplay. 3, fellatio and intercourse, which was directed by Mr. Combs for the purpose of controlling Ms. Ventura's arousal and timing of climax. During these phases, Mr. Howard had no input or ability to offer suggestion and was simply expected to comply. Through the use of manipulation and financial coercion, Mr. Howard will remain in this phase for hours, with each individual stage lasting for over an hour. Ms. Ventura controlled the start of the activity and would seek Mr. Combs' permission regarding when she could progress to the next stage. If Mr. Combs was not ready, he would refuse permission, but he often granted Ms. Ventura's permission to pleasure herself if she requested. Once the activity began, Mr. Combs controlled its progression and pace, seeking to control Ms. Ventura's desires while pleasuring herself rather than directly participating. These prolonged self-pleasure sessions frequently caused skin tears and scabs on Mr. Howard's private part, causing him severe pain and scarring. When Mr. Howard stood covered in baby oil, Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs would pleasure themselves while watching him, which gave him a constant feeling of uneasiness and uncertainty. While Mr. Howard was ordered to stand nude, both defendants would pleasure themselves to the point of climax. Both defendants would be intoxicated using substances and alcohol to alter their moods and keep them awake. Some of these substances were Schedule 1 narcotics, including amphetamines and opiates. The specific drug used included ecstasy, GHB, ketamine, white snow, MDMA, and marijuana. Ms. Ventura in the earlier and middle years were extremely physical with Mr. Howard and would orally pleasure him from periods exceeding 1 hour at times. Gosh. Dehydrated from rugs, lack of water, and constant engagement in oral, Ms. Ventura would often perform oral until she had to stop, where her jaws became sore from the prolonged activity. When the activity was to occur, Ms. Ventura's arousal would be so heightened that she would often beg Mr. Combs to allow her to engage. How much longer? Okay, y'all, just a second. Let me go grab a bottle of water myself. Just a second. So I'm trying to see if Montana had something to say for me taking so long. I had to go fix my daughter. I went to get water, but my daughter, I had to fix my daughter a plate. Sorry. This usually don't happen, y'all. Sorry about that. I'm back. I'm back. So let's continue to go. My fault. I usually don't get interrupted, so please forgive me. So we're going to start at where did I stop? Retrieve his items. I'm going to start at 79. Okay. Mr. Howard was directed to engage in actual contact with Miss Ventura until she was satisfied and was only allowed to stop once Miss Ventura reached her satisfaction. Once Mr. Combs consented to actual contact, Miss Ventura controlled the degree of intimacy, including kissing and intensity of kissing, and whether she would engage in unprotected acts, and will be described in later paragraphs. Once the satisfaction of Miss Ventura occurred, the cycle would be repeated. Dang. One encounter with Miss Ventura could consist of 15 to 30 individual sessions, each including all 4 stages. The number of sessions also depended on the number of days Mr. Howard would be detained until the defendants were ready to return his phone and clothing and release him. If Mr. Howard attempted to leave, he would be coerced by Miss Ventura into waiting or ignored if he knocked on the suite's master bedroom door seeking to retrieve his items to leave. Miss Ventura manipulated Mr. Howard into MDMA use and unprotected X. During the trial testimony of Miss Ventura, Mr. Howard heard her statements regarding Mr. Combs and how she allegedly had been forced to have unprotected X with male entertainers. Miss Ventura claimed to have never wanted such activities and to have only engaged in them as a result of Mr. Combs's abuse and attempts to blackmail her. Although this allegation was substantiated in one instance during the trial, it is not the same in all. It also does not completely substantiate all of Miss Ventura's claims of force and coercion, and every instance is not the same. Mr. Howard confidently asserts that Mr. Combs did not force Miss Ventura to engage in an actual encounter after the overdose she experienced while in his presence. Oh my gosh. It was Miss Ventura who begged for an encounter despite Mr. Combs's repeated attempts to end the night due to the overdose. Mr. Howard confidently asserts that it was Miss Ventura who initiated unprotected actual contact with him, and Mr. Combs had no knowledge of it occurring until it was underway. Once Mr. Combs, who was observing the actual activity, noticed there was no protection being used, he stopped the activity and confirmed Miss Ventura about her actions. In response, Miss Ventura lied to Mr. Combs, falsely informing him that she had reviewed Mr. Howard's STD test results and had confirmed he was completely clean. Mr. Howard, immediately conscious of the lie, interrupted and told Mr. Combs the truth, which was that what Miss Ventura had told him was false. Mr. Howard then provided his actual STD test results to Mr. Combs directly from his email. Once unprotected X began, Mr. Howard would be pressured into continuing it by both parties. Mr. Howard was told he would be the exclusive partner of Miss Ventura, and it was agreed he would be compensated in exchange for clean test results and continued exceptional service. The arrangement was agreed to after Mr. Howard was coerced into participating in a I don't even know what to replace that with Miss Ventura, Mr. Combs, and another male provider named Daniel Phillips. Okay. The goal of the activity was to determine who could please. Oh, yeah, I heard him say this. Who could please Miss Ventura the longest without issue, Mr. Howard or Mr. Phillip. The two men were offered substance and expected to perform continuously, taking turns with Miss Ventura, who was an eager and willing participant. This encounter lasted for nearly 2 days before it ended. Dang. When Mr. Howard um, when Mr. Howard outlasted Mr. Phillips, he was declared the winner and the exclusive arrangement was proposed. Rug use was a major component of the encounters during the majority of the meetings. Mr. Howard did not engage in harder rugs for the first 2 years until they were offered to him by Miss Ventura. Mr. Howard, seeking to stay awake in response to repeated requests to satisfy Miss Ventura, began to have difficulty staying awake and as more was demanded of him. Miss Ventura offered Mr. Howard claiming to be light and harmless in the dosage she would provide. Mr. Howard would later learn from Miss Ventura that she had tripled the dosage in order to get him freaky, as he recalls, and increase the intensity of the encounter. Believing the two were in a monogamous relationship since the exit of Mr. Phillips, always receiving clean results when taking STD tests, and through the inducement of rugs and alcohol, the unprotected ex continued. Mr. Howard impregnated Miss Ventura, who ultimately decided to abort the pregnancy when she was unable to locate Mr. Howard for a period of time. Even after aborting a pregnancy, Miss Ventura sought to have unprotected ex during the encounters for years after. After reconnecting when separated for almost 8 months, Miss Ventura confessed to Mr. Howard at New York City's Gramercy Park Hotel that she had aborted a pregnancy created by Mr. Howard. Despite the revelation, Miss Ventura insisted on unprotected ex during the very encounter, which lasted several days as the two reconnected after the separation. It was after his victory in the encounter with Daniel Phillips that Miss Ventura rugged Mr. Howard with a triple dosage of E and manipulated him into engaging in unprotected X. Mr. Howard is rugged by Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura rugs Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard recalls being rugged by Miss Ventura, who admitted to doing so when he asked once Mr. Howard contacted her again after the initial incident. Specifically, Mr. Howard was given E by Miss Ventura after he complained of exhaustion due to the demand placed upon during the encounters. Instead of providing coffee or an energy drink, Miss Ventura retreated to the bedroom and returned with an E pill. When Mr. Howard complained about his disdain for pills, Miss Ventura crushed the pill and put it into a drink she prepared, informing Mr. Howard she had only included a small dosage. Having known Miss Ventura for several years at this point, Mr. Howard trusted her and consumed the drink prepared by Miss Ventura. Mr. Howard recalls feeling hot and beginning to sweat uncontrollably within several moments of consumption. When he complained of this to Miss Ventura, her response was a passionate kiss before she aggressively grabbed hold of his private and placed it within her mouth. Mr. Howard recalls never feeling so intoxicated in his life, with the rug enhancing all his senses and sexual desires. He and Miss Ventura began with protection, but they were removed by Miss Ventura, who quickly rolled off the protection and pressured unprotected contact while Mr. Howard's inhibitions had been lowered. Mr. Howard and Miss Ventura would engage in the encounter for over 2 days while Mr. Combs watched and on occasion engaged in contact with Miss Ventura. When the parties were all exhausted, Mr. Howard was given back his belongings and allowed to leave. He was compensated with additional funds due to his condition caused by dehydration and lack of sleep. Mr. Howard left confused, dehydrated, and disoriented, ultimately pulling his vehicle over and parking on the side of a grocery store. He woke up hours later, weak and sweating. He was able to get help by calling an Uber, which brought him home to his girlfriend. He spent 3 days recovering from the encounter. After Mr. Howard confronted Miss Ventura during the following encounters, she refused she confessed to rugging him. Following this confession, he did not accept beverages from her except 3 times. He accepted a drink over the next 5 years. Except 3 times he accepted a drink over the next 5 years. The final drink led to a physical assault on Miss Ventura. Oh. Mr. Combs rugs Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard was rugged by Mr. Combs in the Trump property of Columbus Circle in New York City. During the encounter, Mr. Combs offered Mr. Howard a pink substance in a small plastic bag he described as pink MDA or pink Molly. Mr. Howard, who only indulged in rugs with Ms. Ventura, was introduced both Molly and E by Ms. Ventura for purpose of enhancing their actual encounters. Mr. Howard's knowledge of designer rugs was insufficient, and therefore he did not trust the unknown substance at first when offered. Mr. Combs began to hint to Ms. Ventura's insistence on indulgence, explaining she may be angry if he did not partake. Mr. Combs had never offered Mr. Howard rugs before this point, and the two had developed a mutual respect during the years of contact connected by Ms. Ventura. Against his better judgment, Mr. Howard agreed to consume a small dosage, hoping it would satisfy the demand and end the matter for the night. Mr. Combs retreated to the master suite, and within minutes, Mr. Howard recalls becoming extremely warm before he began to sweat uncontrollably. He began to have violent spasms, which curled him over, forcing him to crawl into a nearby bathroom. At no time did either Miss Ventura or Mr. Combs exit the master suite. Once in the bathroom, Mr. Howard began to vomit uncontrollably. The pain from his stomach was intense, and he could not stop the sweating no matter how much he wiped. The vomiting lasted several minutes until there was nothing left to regurgitate. Mr. Howard lay dizzy and weak on the bathroom floor for several minutes before he regained the strength to stand and approach the door. It was Mr. Combs who came upon the weakened and disoriented Mr. Howard first. Noticing the visible change, Mr. Combs inquired Mr. Howard's condition. Mr. Howard recalls being afraid to confess his condition, but he began to feel so sick that he confessed his conditions to Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs examined him briefly. Mr. Combs examined him. Mr. Combs examined him briefly and agreed he did not look good. Mr. Combs turned to enter the master suite and asked Mr. Howard to wait. Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura exited the suite together. When Miss Ventura asked what was wrong, Mr. Howard informed her that what Mr. Combs had given him was responsible. Miss Ventura asked Mr. Combs what he had given Mr. Howard, and Mr. Combs' response with the pink SH. Lord. When Mr. Howard replied, Mr. Combs told him that it was Molly. It was Miss Ventura who informed him that this substance he had been given was not Molly. Mr. Howard was given around $1,500 and released. He managed to exit the hotel and walk over 40 city blocks in December conditions, swearing uncontrollably and unafraid. Finally, around Union Square, located in Lower Manhattan, he regained enough of himself to call a friend and ask for help. He was picked up on a side block and was taken home to recover. Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura coerced Mr. Howard into trafficking. Mr. Howard was flown by this. See, I have to say this really quick. If all of that happened before, why are you going back and allowing to be flown somewhere after that, after all of that? And then we could talk about that, but I'm just curious. Mr. Howard was flown by the special request of Ms. Ventura from New York City to Miami, Florida, and to Los Angeles, California, numerous times to entertain Ms. Ventura. Ms. Ventura would directly call Mr. Howard for encounters and, on occasion, threatened and or pressured Mr. Howard to become available. The trafficking began shortly after Mr. Howard's victory over Daniel Phillips, the other male provider whom he was pitted against during a exathon, as later described by Ms. Ventura. As part of this reward, he began to receive perks like travel and small gifts given to him by Miss Ventura. Mr. Howard would be contacted and asked if he were available to fly out to a location. In the beginning, it was exciting and flattering to experience such an attractive woman hungry for his attention. Over time, Mr. Howard became aware that this was much more than that. The first instance of trafficking occurred when Mr. Howard was flown to Miami from New York City after a call from Miss Ventura. It was cold in New York City, and Miss Ventura's call on a freezing winter day seemed like a gift for Mr. Howard. A flight was booked using JetBlue, which Miss Ventura paid for, and Mr. Howard was off to Miami. Mr. Howard met the couple at the Mandarin, a hotel property located in the Miami area. Mr. Howard checked into the suite under the name Frank Black, which was given to him by Miss Ventura during the ride from the airport to the property. During all instances of ex-trafficking, Mr. Howard would be presented to hotel staff as security for bad boy records, Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs. Mr. Howard would spend days servicing Miss Ventura, waiting to be released so he could return home to his normal life. He was asked to come for one day, but he was not released until 3 days later. Mr. Howard was inconvenienced, but felt intimidated, by the lifestyle of this couple, so he endured, hoping to be released sooner than he was. Mr. Howard would be flown to Miami many times, where he was induced into drug use, alcohol consumption, and prolonged unprotected sexual activity with Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura repeatedly stated to Mr. Howard how she hated protection and they irritated her. It was for this reason she was reluctant to use protection, and she would state they intimidated her and created a smell. They irritated her and created a smell. It was during an encounter at the Beverly Hills Hotel in Los Angeles when Miss Ventura forced herself on Mr. Howard during her menstrual cycle. As will be explained in a later paragraph, this was not an accident, but a calculated disregard for the plaintiff as punishment for refusing to comply with Miss Ventura's command to fly into Los Angeles. Once Mr. Howard was under the control of the defendant, he was given no means to return to his home state without satisfying Miss Ventura. By use of coercion and fraud, Miss Ventura would lure Mr. Howard to her with promises of gifts and favors to entice him. Defendants would use Mr. Howard for days as an ex-slave, satisfying their own physical and psychological needs. Defendants lacked regard for the health and safety of Mr. Howard, as is now known by the dozens of men revealed to be part of this massive deception created by the defendants. Miss Ventura sexual assaults Mr. Howard in Los Angeles Beverly Hills Hotel. The defendants trafficked Mr. Howard to Los Angeles and arranged he be brought to them at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Upon arrival, the plaintiff was instructed to wait, but feeling uncomfortable being in a new city in the middle of the night, the plaintiff decided to go outside. Within minutes, he was contacted by Mr. Combs, who instructed him to re-enter the hotel. He was told to inform the employee by the elevator that Mr. Howard worked for Mr. Combs and was expected. A hotel employee once told Mr. Howard Howard was an employee of Mr. Combs and ushered Mr. Howard to the penthouse suites of the Beverly Hills Hotel. Mr. Howard entered the suites to an environment strangely different from past encounters. No candles were lighting the rooms as had been custom during every encounter over the course of the years. Miss Ventura was angry with Mr. Howard. This anger originated from his decision to spend his anniversary with his own partner and not fly to Los Angeles the day at the invitation of Miss Ventura. Through the use of manipulation and physical positioning, Coupled with the pressure of the presence of Mr. Combs, Miss Ventura forced an actual encounter upon Mr. Howard. She seduced him into complying with her, then removed his clothing. Once his clothing was removed, she manipulated him through foreplay into a compromised position on the sofa. Once on the sofa, she began kissing him, attempting to arouse him into participating in sexual activity. Mr. Howard remembers things felt strange, so he repeatedly asked her to wait, but Miss Ventura ignored him, pinning him with her waist and hip on the couch. Miss Ventura took hold of Mr. Howard's privates and quickly inserted it into herself. The sensation overwhelmed Mr. Howard, causing difficulties when he tried to use his motor functions. When is this over? Miss Ventura finished quickly, and it was then that Mr. Howard was able to remove her and reach for a nearby light so that he could see what was going on. Mr. Howard discovered Miss Ventura was ministrating, and it appeared heavy. Miss Ventura pretended to be surprised, but later revealed she was aware of her ministration, but didn't think it would be heavy. Mr. Howard remembers being angry and asking why she would have done that to him. Miss Ventura, drunk and visibly intoxicated, laughed and informed the plaintiff it wasn't a big deal. So that says Mr. Ventura, but it's Miss Ventura. An argument ensued, which was cut short by Mr. Combs, who called Miss Ventura into the bedroom after apologizing to Mr. Howard, then asked that he remains calm. When the defendant re-entered the room, Mr. Combs admitted that Miss Ventura was aware but intoxicated and disregarded Mr. Howard's feelings. He provided him with substantial bills and asked him to go to the suite that had been prepared for his stay within the hotel until the next later in the day. Miss Ventura apologized for how she had treated Mr. Howard, blaming intoxication and hormones due to her monthly cycle. Miss Ventura would often order Mr. Howard to satisfy himself for her visual pleasure. Under the influence of substances, her requests would last hours without a consideration of the well-being of Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard suffered injuries such as tears to his shaft of his private, which eventually resulted in his skin peeling and scabbing. The injuries were the result of prolonged periods of self-directed self-pleasure at the order of Miss Ventura. Mr. Howard contracts STD from Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura's disregard for the health and safety of others while attempting to satisfy the sexual fetishes of her lover caused personal injury to Mr. Howard when he contracted an STD from her during an encounter where the two engaged in unprotected sex. Although Mr. Howard met Mr. Ventura as a male companion, he was STD free and rarely had unprotected sexual contact. While engaged in the coercion of Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura, Mr. Howard was in a committed monogamous relationship which had begun before he met Miss Ventura. Beside his partner, Miss Ventura was the only other sexual partner Mr. Howard did not use condoms. During this time of contraction, Mr. Howard had been semi-retired as a male provider, with Miss Ventura being his last client before he exited completely. He was gainfully employed in a committed relationship with a partner, and he lived with them 7 days a week. Shortly after one encounter, Mr. Howard began to feel strange sensations when urinating. This quickly worsened, causing him to immediately consult a diagnostic center seeking to have his blood and urine tested. The results are returned with Mr. Howard having contracted chlamydia. Several weeks later, when Mr. Howard saw Ms. Ventura again, the STD came up in a conversation when Ms. Ventura revealed she had contracted it and politely advised Mr. Howard to get himself checked, also blaming the infidelity committed by Mr. Combs for her infection. The reckless conduct of the defendants jeopardized the health and well-being of Mr. Howard. Defendants' lifestyles and activities created the threat of substantial risk, which was minimized to Mr. Howard by the information the defendant withheld. Mr. Howard witnessed horrific acts of domestic violence against Mr. Ventura. Over the span of a decade, Mr. Howard became an unwilling witness to numerous acts of physical domestic violence committed against Ms. Ventura. This violence has been attributed to forced labor and sexual acts of depravity, where Ms. Ventura claims she was forced to participate in sexual encounters. Mr. Howard's reality is far different from Ms. Ventura's. He recalls in vivid detail circumstances that differ greatly from what has been reported by Ms. Ventura regarding her abuse. Mr. Combs would assault Ms. Ventura in response to a variety of different factors. These included jealousy, arrogance, and perceived slights, perceived disrespect, perceived attempts to challenge him, and more. But during no encounter was Ms. Ventura ever assaulted for a perceived lack of interest, hesitation, poor performance, or direct refusal to engage in sexual encounters. Wow. Mr. Howard recalls Mr. Combs' assault Ms. Ventura. Mr. Combs assault Ms. Ventura in NYC after a perceived slight he falsely assumed to be validated. He did so by punching her twice in the chest in the presence of Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard would witness Mr. Combs grabbing, kicking, and shoving Ms. Ventura in response to the domestic arguments. On other occasions, Mr. Howard witnessed Mr. Combs assault Ms. Ventura for making Mr. Howard a drink despite being told by Mr. Combs not to. Mr. Combs assaulted Ms. Ventura because he assumed Ms. Ventura was mocking his private thighs when he attempted to bed her immediately after Mr. Howard had finished. The instances of domestic violence and abuse experienced by Mr. Howard traumatized him for years after they occurred. Mr. Howard was made an unwillingness to witness and further victimized by this powerful couple who totally disregarded unless they needed his private. When his private was needed, he would be coerced, manipulated, and then seduced into rug use and compliance. These acts and their traumatic effect entitle Mr. Howard to damage and relief within the action being put forth. Mr. Howard cooperates with the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. In mid-December 2023, agents from the Department of Homeland Security Investigations contacted Mr. Howard regarding his encounter with Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura, requesting that he come for an interview. Having no experience in the law at this time, Mr. Howard contacted his local criminal attorney, who was also not an expert in federal criminal law. In response, the U.S. Attorney Office provided counsel to advise and represent Mr. Howard during the interview for legal purposes. Mr. Howard spent the next year and a half as a cooperating government witness for the Southern District of New York. Mr. Howard provided airline payment receipts, boarding passes, dates, and photos of hotels to the government. More importantly, Mr. Howard provided corroboration of illegal activities. Mr. Howard could corroborate a decade of illegal activities beginning in 2009 and concluding in late 2019. During this time period, Mr. Howard witnessed assaults against Ms. Ventura, rug use, and illegal activity and witnessed. Mr. Howard was additionally rugged by both Ms. Ventura and Mr. Combs on 2 separate occasions. Mr. Howard was the male provider who impregnated Ms. Ventura after an encounter in October 2013. As the interview process progressed, Mr. Howard was asked for details as he recalled them. Prosecutor Maureen Comey assisted Mr. Howard in a method of recollection by instructing him during an interview to write down his memories as he recalled them. Due to the length of time that had elapsed since the conclusion of the relationship. Mr. Howard could then use these notes and present them to prosecutors who would fact check the dates and locations for evidence that supported his allegations. The U.S. attorney was able to establish Mr. Howard's credibility after investigating his claims. The U.S. attorney verified encounters at the Gramercy Park Hotel in New York City, the Mandarin Hotel in Miami, the One Residence in Miami, the SLS in Miami, the London in New York City, the Essex House Hotel, New York City, the Intercontinental Hotel, New York City and Miami, the Trump Hotel, New York City, and the Downtown Beverly Hills Hotel, Los Angeles. Mr. Howard verified the sexual assault allegations within this complaint when he provided supporting travel fare receipts for his departure and arrival flights to Los Angeles on the morning he was assaulted. As the investigation continued, the U.S. attorney became aware of criminality in the action of Ms. Ventura. Because Ms. Ventura was not the target of the investigation, Mr. Howard's allegations against her were not acted upon. Attorneys provided by U.S. attorney worked to dissuade Mr. Howard from filing civil action against Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura. The attorney argued that the allegations against Ms. Ventura would expose her to criminal liability and therefore might damage her credibility as a witness and her public image. Mr. Howard, as the client, directly instructed attorney Tyrone Blackburn to file his action against the defendants before the expiration of a statute made available to adult survivors of sexual assault in New York. Mr. Blackburn began as directed by first contacting attorney Douglas Wigdor, seeking to quietly settle litigation with Ms. Ventura and offering her the opportunity to avoid exposure to the allegations once the lawsuit was made public after filing. Instead of Mr. Wigdor embracing this opportunity to protect his client's image from allegations he knew to be true, he sought the assistance of the U.S. attorney to dissuade Tyrone Blackburn from filing until after the criminal trial of Sean Combs. This decision, although it protected Ms. Ventura's credibility before the trial, compromised Mr. Howard's legal action within the state of New York. Filing after the trial would mean Mr. Howard would lose his right to action in the state of New York under the applicable statute being used at the time. A calculated and coordinated effort has been made to protect Ms. Ventura from criminal liability that can be established. In protecting Ms. Ventura, the civil rights of Mr. Howard and other potential victims of Ms. Ventura who may exist and are entitled to civil actions against her as their offender has been compromised. Ms. Ventura claims to have been forced, but despite her alleged trauma, she willingly and intentionally victimized, manipulated, and harmed others. Mr. Howard is entitled to justice under the same laws that provided justice for Ms. Ventura. Mr. Combs and Ms. Ventura should be held accountable for their actions jointly based on Mr. Howard's verified encounters and personal experiences and should not be minimized due to the alleged victimhood of Ms. Ventura. Based on the factual allegations presented above, Mr. Howard incorporates all facts as his basis for the cause of action listed below. Mr. Howard seeks the justice of this court to provide that which has been denied by those who seek to conceal the truth in order to protect false information provided by the defendant. First cause of action, sex trafficking under 18 USC 159 against all defendants. Plaintiff repeats and and what? Oh, plaintiff repeats and realleges every allegation in all of the preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. Plaintiff is a victim of trafficking within the meaning and is therefore entitled to bring a civil action under this 18 USC 1595. The defendant's act and omissions taken separately and or together, as outlined above, constitutes a violation of this. Defendants Combs and Ventura together are co-conspirators, perpetrated trafficking of Mr. Howard, coercing him into actual acts by use of substances in multiple jurisdictions. Wow. The defendant benefited by using Mr. Howard, often holding him for days to satisfy the actual demands of Ms. Ventura while Mr. Combs watched. Ms. Ventura had autonomy. She made decisions, and she did what she wanted. There was abuse, but it was not because of forced sexual contact, as she claimed. How many more pages? At all relevant times, defendant Combs and Ventura participated in and facilitated the harboring and transportation of plaintiffs for purposes of acts induced by fraud and coercion. There were no instances where Miss Ventura appeared to be forced, as she has claimed. By the account of Mr. Howard reported during numerous interviews in the U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey, and his allegations have never changed. Ms. Ventura was an active and eager participant with autonomy and her own power. Mr. Combs played the prosecutor. Mr. Combs played the protector, amongst other roles. The defendant corporations have financially benefited and otherwise benefited as a result of these acts and omissions, aiding Ms. Ventura in her attempt to satisfy the actual needs of Mr. Combs, the depraved, abusive, and explosive owner of defendant corporations. Be satisfied. They book rooms for the trafficked and provide supplies for the depravity. Defendants Combs and Ventura, to include defendants Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Entertainment, and Doe Corporate Corps 1 through 10, formed a venture as defined by 18 USC 1591, given that they constituted a group of two or more individuals associated, and in fact, where am I at? A legal entity. It's getting ready to die. I gotta plug it up. As a direct and proximate result of defendants' unlawful conduct, as alleged here and above, plaintiff has suffered physical harm, severe emotional distress, and anxiety, humiliation, embarrassment, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other consequential damages. Plaintiff seeks reasonable attorney fees should be obtained. Counsel to continue the matter plaintiff seeks reasonable attorney fees should be obtained. Counsel to contain the matter on his behalf under 18 USC 159. Second cause of action, civil remedy for human trafficking. I'm just going to say it. Let me plug this up real quick. All right. Thank y'all for being here. It's long, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I appreciate it. Hit the like. Don't forget to hit the like. Don't forget to become a member. All right. So Florida statute 787061 against all defendants. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation in all of the preceding paragraphs as it is fully set forth herein. At all times, material hereto, plaintiff was a victim of human trafficking as defined by Florida Statute 787. Are we going to have to go through that whole thing for Florida? Having been subjected to coercion for the purposes of being used in human trafficking. Defendant engaged in human trafficking and defined by Florida status, which includes but is not limited to transporting, soliciting, recruiting, harboring, providing, enticing, maintaining, or obtaining another person for the purposes of exploitation for that person, using coercion to compel the plaintiffs to engage in commercial sexual activity, restraining, isolating, and confining, or threatening to restrain, isolate, or confine the plaintiff. Defendants conduct constituted coercion as defined by Florida statute, including but not limited, restraining, isolating, and confirming, all those things. Enticing plaintiff to engage in commercial sexual activity through deceptive or fraudulent means. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's human trafficking, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer economic damages, including but not limited to past and future medical expenses, past and future mental health treatment expenses, lost wages, and diminished earning capacity, costs and expenses incurred as a result of human trafficking, and other reasonable costs and expenses incurred by plaintiff as a direct and proximate result of defendant's human trafficking. Plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer non-economic damages, including but not limited to pain and suffering, inconvenience, mental anguish, loss of capacity and enjoyment of life, and other non-financial losses. Defendant's conduct was intentional, willful, wanton, and malicious, warranting an award of punitive damages pursuant to Florida statutes 786, 787, all that. Plaintiff is entitled to reasonable attorney fees should he retain and costs pursuant to Florida statute. This action is timely filed pursuant to the statute of limitations set forth in Florida statute as applicable and as referenced in the Florida statute. Third cause of action, civil remedy for human trafficking. This is same stuff. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation in all of the preceding paragraphs and is fully set forth herein. That's the same thing, y'all. I'm not going to read that again, but only the difference is it's California instead of Florida. Same stuff. Depriving, violating plaintiff's personal liability with the intent to effect or maintain a felony violation of specified X offenses, using force, fear, fraud, deceit, coercion, violence, distress, all that in the California law. Force, including physical restraint and physical harm. Defendant used one or more of the following means to accomplish: compelling plaintiffs to provide fluids. Defendant's traffic. Okay, let's read that. Defendant's trafficking conduct included, but was not limited to, transporting plaintiff across state lines for commercial and sexual exploitation, using promises of financial compensation and gifts to compel compliances, making false promises of legitimate employment, confiscating identification documents in the wallet when items were withheld, compelling plaintiff to provide body fluids in separate containers for the defendant's unknown enjoyment. Defendants use one or more of the following means to accomplish the trafficking: force, including physical restraint or physical harm. Fraud, including false and deprived offers of employment, marriage, or other relationships. Coercion, including threats of harm to plaintiff and others, debt, bondage, or other means of control. Violence or threats of violence, duress through unlawful pressure and or menace by the way of threat, declaration, or act showing an intention to inflict an evil or injury. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's human trafficking, plaintiffs suffered actual damages, including general damage for physical and mental pain and suffering, medical and psychological treatment, lost wages and diminished earning capacity, cost of reasonable relocation expenses, reasonable attorney fees, and other losses approximately caused by the trafficking. Defendant Beverly Hills, Defendant Beverly Hills Hotel, through the employees had actual knowledge of or acted with reckless disregard toward trafficking activity occurring within hotel premises. The employee's conduct directly contributed to or enabled the trafficking harm suffered by the plaintiff. Defendant's conduct was despicable and subject to contempt, warranting punitive damages to deter similar conduct. Yikes. Plaintiff seeks restitution for the value of labor or services provided while being trafficked. Plaintiffs entitled to reasonable attorney fees as the privileging party pursuant to California Civil Code. Plaintiff seeks injunctive relief to prevent defendant from engaging in further trafficking conduct. Harlem, how many pages is this? Did you look? Because I didn't. Anyway, fourth cause of action. Let's get done. Federal civil remedy for human trafficking, because I'm ready to hear from y'all. That's why I'm trying to get through this. Trafficking Victims Protection Act against all defendants. Plaintiff repeats and alleges every allegation in all of the preceding paragraphs and is fully set forth herein. At all times, material hereto defendants violated one or more provisions of Chapter 77 of Title 18 of the United States Code, peonage, slavery, and trafficking in person, specifically including but not limited to enticement into slavery, forced labor, trafficking with respect to peonage, slavery, involuntary servitude, or forced labor, trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and or defendant engaged in trafficking in violation of 18 U.S.C. 159. By knowingly recruiting, enticing, harboring, transporting, providing, obtaining, advertising, maintaining, patronizing, or soliciting plaintiffs for the purposes of commercial acts, using means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion to cause plaintiff to engage in commercial acts and or causing plaintiff to engage in commercial acts with plaintiff was under the age of 18 years. Who was under the age of 18? Defendants constituted a commercial act as defined by 18 U.S.C. 159, meaning any act account of which anything of value was given to or received by any person. Defendant used one or more of the following means prohibited: fraud, scheme, plan, or pattern intended to cause plaintiff to believe that failure to perform certain acts would result in serious harm or physical restraint, coercion, threats of serious harm to a physical restraint against plaintiff or another person, or any scheme, plan, or pattern intended to cause plaintiff to believe that failure to perform the act will result in serious harm to or physical restraint against plaintiff or another person, and or alternatively, or in addition, defendants engaged in forced labor in violation of the 18 U.S.C. 1589 by knowingly providing or obtaining the labor or services of plaintiff through one or more of the prohibited means set forth above. Defendants' conduct involved interstate or foreign commerce, including but not limited to transportation of plaintiff across state lines, use of interstate communication systems, other activities affecting interstate commerce. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's violation of federal trafficking laws, plaintiff has suffered damages including medical expenses of cost, physical and occupational therapy and rehabilitation, mental health counseling and treatment expenses, lost income and diminished earning capacity, pain and suffering, emotional distress and mental anguish, loss of enjoyment of life, all that same stuff. Defendant conduct was willful, wanton. We already said that. Plaintiff is entitled to reasonable attorney fees. We already said that. Sexual assault pursuant to California Sexual Abuse and Cover Up Accountability Act. He went in on this. Plaintiff repeats and realleges each and every allegation in all of the preceding paragraphs as if fully set forth herein. Oh, we're almost there. We're on the 6th one, right? Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Let me see what y'all saying in this chat. Harlem said it's so much because he got ready to because he did it, not a lawyer, but take a break. It's so much because he did it, not a law. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're going to stop at page 42 and we can pick this up tomorrow before our guest, like early in the day or whatever, because it's really saying the same stuff. Oh my gosh. All right, listen, let's talk about it. I need y'all to come on. I'm going to drop this link again because I know that it is hiding, but let's just talk about what it is, because it seems to be in all of these other acts like 6, 7, 8 to the end, they're saying the same things. They're saying the same things, and it's either for Los Angeles or Florida or New York. Miami, Los Angeles, New York. So there's the link. Y'all come up and talk to me. And remember, we are on page 42. I'll write it down because that's a lot. Don't be talking about my glasses, Montana. Now, I just ordered me like 5 more pair to come in. 5 more pair. Right. You already know. Okay. Ooh, and he had to be the first person to come up.
Yo.
Montana.
You heard what I had said in the comments? I said them glasses gonna haul ass on your ass when you take them off.
I know he's being mean to me, Bert.
You heard what y'all hear me?
I ain't hear nobody. Let me get this off.
Hold on. Y'all hear me now?
Anybody that want to come up and talk about it, let's do it. But I cannot hear you, Montana. I don't know if you are on. No, it looks like it.
You hear me now?
Yep, I got you. I can hear you.
I said them glasses gonna haul ass on you as soon as you take them off.
I saw that. Man, that's a lot. I didn't look at it. I wanted to read it with y'all, so I didn't look at it until I got on here live. That's a lot. We got a lot to go.
I feel special tonight. I felt like I got read a bedtime story.
Oh, that was long.
2 hours.
Right. Yeah, that's a long time. It was 1 hour and 30 minutes. Well, because I'll break.
But you good though. But
well,
this gonna
what'd you say?
But how can you sue somebody for giving you an STD? I mean, that would happen when you sleep with multiple people. That what comes with it.
Here's my problem. I agree. Here's my problem with it all. And everybody may not agree with me on this, but here's my problem with this. You went several times and you saw what was happening. Eventually you figured out that she didn't want to use protection. And you kept going back. Like, did they take, I want to know about the rugs. Did they take the X and shove it down your mouth? Or help me understand why they forced you to, like, why did you take it? You could have gotten the journalist reporter Harlem to help read. Oh, well, I would have. She can read the rest tomorrow if she's up to it. But anyway, I just feel like I'm struggling with this just a little bit. But let's talk about. Let me back up. So a lot of people felt like, and I think maybe you, Montana, the fact that they got immunity, but they did some things wrong as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that's immediately the two charges he was found guilty of. That's immediately dismissed because how the heck you a prosecutor and you tell somebody who currently suing a civil suit on somebody say, hey, hold back, you gonna make my witness incredible.
that if this is really what happened, that was totally wrong,
Yeah, that's
and
immediately dismissal.
that put her as a co-conspirator with him. She should have been a co-conspirator. If we're being honest, now we've been on, I'm trying to stay in the middle, but if we're being honest about the situation, if he went to them, they came to him and said, you could potentially be witness. Show me what you got. Give me all of your evidence. We're going to go and we're going to make sure that what you're telling us is right. The timelines are right. The locations are right. We'll come back. But when they found that it was all true what he was saying, told his lawyer to tell him to back off and wait till after trial because it's going to hurt them. That wasn't, because it needs to protect her from being potentially set up to have the charges as well. That was wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's and she didn't get immunity for that, for what he's talking about. This is immunity for whatever they found with Diddy, I guess. Like, I'm just so confused how they can do that. Like, I get where his frustration is now if that really happened.
But at the end
Yeah,
of the
because that's what. Go ahead, Montana.
day, Harlem.
No, I was going to say, yeah, that's what I was thinking. She got immunity for Puff's case. This
Yeah.
guy, he wasn't involved in it. He was like a witness that they were going to use, and then they decided not to use him.
And
So
they
would
decided,
it
go ahead.
affect this? Would it affect this?
I don't know, because they decided not to use him because they thought they thought they was going to get the RICO on Puff, and if they use what Mr. Howard has right here, it was going to mess up the whole thing, because now Cassie was going to be charged as could have been charged as a co-conspirator. So they was like, don't do that because it's going to hurt us. And they still didn't get found guilty of it. But I think that was wrong of them to do that if that's what happened. Especially if they went after he gave them all the evidence, they went to confirm what he was saying. And once they confirmed it, they was like, tell him to back off. We're not,
I believe
he's not
I
even going to
believe
be a witness for us.
I believe it's true because at the end of the day, right? That what you just pulled up and read was public information. That's a
Yeah.
lawsuit that's already filed in the system. Our he wouldn't have said that. He wouldn't have said that if it wasn't true. That person wouldn't have said that if it wasn't true what that prosecutor said, because that prosecutor could sue for uh, what defamation of character, all type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's true.
So go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
No,
I need to rest my voice.
I was going to say that it is true because I don't know if you remember a few weeks back during the trial, I had mentioned to you that there was an escort, that they had filed a motion to quash his journal entries. Do you remember that?
I remember that. This is him?
This is him. And I
Yes, I
couldn't
remember.
figure out why they were trying to quash his journal entries. This is him. Because they knew that if they used his journal entries, that it was going to throw their case out.
Hi, Lorraine, sweet. She said
Yeah,
throw the case out. Yeah. Yeah.
his whole case could get dismissed right now just off of
Right now.
what that prosecutor just did.
That is facts. They need to release him right now, or they need to be picking Cassie up.
And she need to be released off her duties pending an investigation.
Yes, that's how I feel. That's how I look at it. As I was reading that, I was like, that is so wrong on every level. But like they said, and remember Montana, that guy that was coming in here saying the crooked system, the system is crooked. This is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Because how are you gonna say, oh wait, nah. You tell your client to stand down because whatever he got, we see it. But we can't have him do that because that's gonna hurt us. Right? That ain't nothing right about that.
Yeah, because he said that the prosecutors, they spoke to Cassie's lawyer as well. So they all were aware of it.
Yeah.
The defense knew of the journal entries, whatever that he wrote, because he was writing it for a book. Like he has a book that's on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably weren't aware of everything because of the fact the journal entries that was in question, the motion of quash was submitted by Tyrone Blackburn. Tyrone Blackburn wasn't per se his lawyer, but that's what he went to get assistance with it. He in turn said that they were lawyer-client confidentiality documents or whatever, and the judge wanted them admitted.
Right.
So because the judge wanted them admitted, that's in turn the prosecution was like, oh, we don't want him to testify. That's how I'm looking at it.
Hey, Lorraine said this is a civil case, not federal. Well, when you a civil case is federal when you dealing with the type of money they're suing for, because you can't get that money in no small claims court or none of that. You have to go to federal Supreme Court when you suing for millions of dollars. When you suing for hundreds, thousands of dollars, it's still Supreme Court. You go to small claims court for anything under 1,000.
But even so, I think that they are going to use this in appeal. This lawsuit is going to be questioned in an appeal, I think.
So basically, you told that person, hey, don't sue him until we done with the case, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Basically, that's what they said. Hold off on yours until we get done.
Yeah, bought my priorities or bought my legal stuff.
Mm-hmm. Just hush me up. And how I felt and what I went through and as a victim, right? But because we got something going on over here, we need you just to stand down.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But then how do you guys feel about, like, okay, I understand what he's saying, but how do you feel about, like, even after like certain things had been happening that he was feeling like he got sick, he had to have an Uber to take him, and he still went back and did it again. Like he still went back for them to be able to offer him drugs. Like, what was that about?
But he went back for 8 years.
8.
And it just makes me think of the other guy, Jonathan Odie. He was in Miami. He was with them. Wasn't he with them a couple of years? And he contracted a sexually transmitted disease. And he ended up getting, $5 million, I think Puff ended up giving him.
A lot, yeah.
So his situation is the same.
Okay, yeah. Y'all, thank y'all for being here. I hope we have likes. Our likes are up, and I hope that if you're not subscribed, that you'll go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to become a member. We got some things going on. We got some things brewing in the background, so you will want to be here. Feds nor defense used him. Why? Wasn't that when he said that they talked to him, like the prosecution talked to him, went and did their investigation, and when he sent his lawyer, they told his lawyer, we're not going to use him right now because it would mess up our But dang, but then why wouldn't the defense, if they knew about it, why didn't they go ahead and use him? I wonder.
Because the defense didn't call nobody.
Right. They weren't going to
They
use
didn't
nobody.
call anybody.
But yeah, and oh yeah, I apologize. Small claims court, you can't get no more than 5,000. That's like when you be watching Joe Brown and all them, and they be suing, they can't get no more than 5,000. Those are small claim courts. That's where you sue people for rent and all that type of stuff.
So she said because he lied. You saying so, Lorraine Sweet? You're saying they're not using him. They didn't use him because he lied about something. He was in a monogamous relationship. And how can he say that you're in a monogamous relationship when you're actually leaving your person going to do Cassie?
And then knowing that Cassie doing other men.
Yeah. So there was a high probability, and knowing that she snatches the protection off, even if you start off using it, she ends up snatching it off because she don't want to use it. It don't feel right to her. It don't make a smell come or whatever.
But at first, he didn't notice she was with other guys. He said that he thought that it was a thing with just him and
After the guy,
them.
that's right. That's right. After he beat the guy out in that competition thing. That's right.
Yeah, but like I say, all money is not good money. And people fail to realize that. I mean, people be in situations and they see an opportunity to come up,
Uh-huh.
and all money is just not good money.
And
This
then
ain't work.
how can you and then you say that it was suing because she had an abortion without his permission.
Yeah, that's why he's suing because
So
she was pregnant and she gave him an STD.
so I mean if you get pregnant by someone, you know how many women that had abortions. So can they baby daddy sue too?
Hmm. You make a point.
Women have a you know what I'm saying. Women take Plan Bs every day and all type of stuff.
This is just crazy. It just one thing after another. One thing after the other. Not this time to speak live. I think she's saying no, she's not coming up. I appreciate you being here though. You make us look at it, a whole different way. But and we are able to respect other people's opinions. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you everybody for being here. Well, I mean, he went in on this and he went pretty hard. So how is he trying to sue Cassie and Diddy Harlem? Is what she's saying.
Beauty came in late.
Oh, she just okay, okay. So,
So Beauty, he's a one of their escorts that they used at a time, and he's basically suing both of them. Cassie more so for a STD that she gave him, and um, terminating pregnancy.
And then you got women that burn men every day and men burn women every day. They don't know they had it. Can they sue?
hmm. These are good points. I mean, good point.
Yeah, because
It's
would he
quite
have sued if it was Mary Jane that lived around the corner and up the street or upstairs from you or whatever? Would you sue
Okay.
Mary Jane?
Mm-hmm.
I mean the lady rich. If she knew she had something, she would have got it checked out.
Of course, it's always a likelihood that she was going to have something anyway.
You even
For
got the people that live in poverty that think they got something, they go get checked out. They pull up on the phone and show you their medical records. I'm clean.
Wow. There was a lot I was gonna say while I was reading. I should have been writing it down. I had questions. And he gave it to his monogamy. Yeah, they just spread it all around there. We
Now,
allegedly.
let me tell you this right here. Now, if they had it, like I think like with HIV or something like that, if you got HIV and you know that you have it and you don't tell a partner, then yeah, you could get in trouble for that. That's against the law.
Yeah. Well, that's what he's kind of saying, that he got it and Cassie didn't tell him that she had it. Just like she was on her menstrual and it was dark in there, and then turned the light on and he's on his menstrual, and she's on her menstrual, and he was furious about that because he never would have did that like that. Like, there's a lot in there. It's a lot.
It's nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everything that he says, he basically is knocking what she testified to under oath.
So it still make her incredible. Still making her incredible. Even
Credible or not?
not credible. Like
That's what.
what? Like what was she thinking? Like woman. I mean, with the prosecutor, like really, like you knew either way the public was gonna hear about this because the man's suing. The public was gonna hear about it anyway.
Yeah.
And you just made your own self hot because the man put that in there that you told him to fall back. All that in that motion that you just read.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and Tasha K has an interview up with him.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw some of it. I didn't get to. I'm gonna go back and look at it. So when he says that she was upset that he didn't make himself available, like, could she really like just take his pants down and pull his stuff out and put it in her? Like, I don't know. Is it really? I mean, did she really have that much power over him to do that?
I guess I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You saying you don't know. So Montana, you say a woman that you just meet, she asks you for your ID and then she just basically attacks you. You're not gonna like react to anything. You just gonna go with it.
I mean, well, with me, I got morals, so no. But you got some men that don't care because that's what they wanted anyway. Because you got to realize with most women, with most sexual encounters, the man always the one who's applying the pressure or or trying to get the woman in the mood. It's very seldom that the woman, when you date someone, you just met someone or dating someone, it always the man that's trying. So if she did went ahead and did it, he did 9 out of 10 the guy that's what he wanted all along. So I can't say. I mean,
Mm.
I mean, I mean, from y'all experience, you know, I don't want to disrespect nobody or nothing, but most men try y'all first before y'all even think about trying them.
True.
Even y'all get on social media or even make posters or thing. All thing men want is my draws and that's it. Oh, that's all they these men about. So it's hard to say.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. It's hard to say. What'd she say?
But yeah, with me, yeah, that ain't going down like that.
Yeah. So for the interview tomorrow, yes. So Sam will be here tomorrow. He is the founder, creator of Viral Hip Hop News. Their platform is huge. And he's going to come and just give his opinion. And throughout the whole trial, they've been covering it. What he thinks about the verdict. Even talk about this lawsuit. If he, what his views are, and we will be able to, just like we did the last one, be able to ask questions as well. So y'all be prepared to have conversation with him. I think that if he been reaching out to I think that if he'd been reaching out to her, it's something that Cassie knows if she has been avoiding him. Well, she was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always more to a story than what people put out. So
Oh, was she thinking it was the same man?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this is a new one. And then we got a young lady possibly coming. We can get her. We're gonna, that was there inside the courtroom. So talk to them. Anyway, this is good conversation. We're gonna pick up tomorrow. Sometimes during the day, I'll probably come on and then act, and then later he'll come on because I want to get through this. But I think it's just kind of saying the same thing for the different states. But we can pick up from there. I'm gonna go listen to Tasha K's interview as well, with him on there. And I've reached out to him too. I don't know how that will work. So
Yeah,
anyway,
because he had put up a video. He said that black women were coming at him, and he's a domestic violence survivor, and he didn't understand how the women could come at him like that.
so what he's saying is he's saying that they're coming at him in a negative way, like, why are you doing this to Cassie?
Yeah.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, men can be victims too, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Have to respect everybody that says they're a victim. So anyway, I just wanted to come and do that tonight. It was kind of late. We had been out of town and got back. I was like, let me go on since I said it, and I just read it with you guys. I enjoyed the conversation though, back and forth. I enjoy everybody's opinion, and I enjoy what I really like the most is that we can all have our opinions respectfully, and we're going to continue to do that over here because it's good vibes over here, no matter what. They ain't doing nothing about Charlie Sheen. What happened with Charlie Sheen? Did he do something? We have to talk about that too. Beauty is me. We're gonna talk about it all. All right. So we're gonna go for now. I know it's kind of getting late. So we're gonna go. I hope y'all have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your night. And then we'll come back tomorrow sometime during the day. Don't forget to hit the like button. Again, if you're not subscribed to the channel, we would appreciate you to go ahead and hit the subscribe. Also hit the bell for notifications so that you can get the notifications when we are live. And then again, become a member so that you can come into our exclusive rooms to get the information firsthand. So with that said, you guys, y'all have a good night, and we'll be back here tomorrow, same place.
All
Don't
right,
forget,
y'all.
coming.
Good night.
And we
Sam,
promise we
don't forget your questions for Sam.
and we promise we're not going to be 50 minutes late tomorrow night.
On time. On time. 8 p.m. sharp for Sam. But I'm gonna go live earlier so we can finish this too. So we'll be live twice tomorrow at least.
And for Harlem, I was being in the chat. I just ain't didn't say that because I knew you was gonna start your mess.
You know something. It's
I,
all good.
I said, I said, watch. I said, I'm a peak game now. I said, watch Harlem gonna swear she was here already. And you did exactly what I knew you was gonna do.
Whatever.
She ain't feeding into it. She ain't feeding into it, my son. All right, y'all. We gonna go. Whoever get here first tomorrow, might get a prize or something sent to you.
Hey, listen. I was very respectful for yesterday. Hey, you remember Stephanie that was in the chat?
Stephanie.
That was in the chat yet last night.
What'd she say? I can't. I mean, it was a lot of people.
You remember Stephanie last night, Harlem?
I remember Stephanie.
And you see what her picture was?
I didn't look at her picture.
Okay. Because I had tagged you in Harlem in a comment last night. You thought you would catch on.
Oh, I ain't look at her picture.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look and see.
I think Alberta know what I'm talking about.
Okay, Barbara. Good night. All right, we're gonna go.
All right, y'all.
Y'all have a good night. Okay.
Good
All
night,
right.
y'all.
All
Good
right.
night.